Hello, welcome to another video where today we're taking a look at some video footage that I was able to capture underwater with my phone camera. Now, hopefully this doesn't look entirely terrible, which was not an easy feat. Or at least it doesn't look terrible on my end. I have some suspicions that YouTube might have issue with the constant motion of the light and the camera, but we'll have to see if that's actually a problem. So let's talk about these problems. The first one, and honestly the easiest to solve, although one that will probably cost some money, is getting something to actually protect the phone from the salt water and still have it be able to take video at the same time. I settled on what is essentially a purpose-built plastic bag with a locking mechanism that keeps it nice and shut. This seems to do fairly well, and they're not that expensive. Not giving any brands, but you could probably get one fairly easily just like this on Amazon. If you want to support local business instead, I wouldn't be surprised if some dive shops might have something like this. There is also a second problem here, which is basically unsolvable, and that has to do with how your phone's touchscreen actually works. It works based on electrical conductivity when you touch it, and this membrane has to allow that, otherwise you couldn't operate the touchscreen of the phone while it was in here. So it would be pretty useless. However, guess what else will set off the touchscreen of your phone? Salt water. So you're going to have constant issues with your phone doing things that you don't want it to do underwater. And luckily, depending on your phone's touchscreen sensitivity, the phone I currently have now has a less sensitive touchscreen than the one I had before, which I think is a hardware thing. So there's no way, as far as I can tell, that you can change how sensitive it is. So whatever phone you have is what you have to deal with. If you're using the touchscreen to start the video, you have to start above water and then submerge the phone. Once it's underwater, the phone is only going to do things you don't want it to do, so don't even try starting the video once it's actually submerged. If your phone is like mine, you might be able to start a recording underwater using the volume keys, but that still doesn't solve the problem of your recording sometimes ending without you intending it to. Once you're underwater, the recording can stop at any time. There are so many different inputs on your phone that will cause this. And you're just going to have to live with that. Try to get as much as you can get. And I have noticed, try not to point the camera up, because for whatever reason, that has an extremely high likelihood of causing the recording to stop. And now on to the third problem, which is actually getting the video to not be a blurry mess. While you're underwater, you're probably going to want to get video that's nice to look at, and that's difficult. You can't just use normal phone video settings for that. What ended up working wonders for me was the 0.5 times lens, the wide sort of landscape camera that's on many of the very newer phones. That works wonders, presumably because it doesn't try to focus on anything. I'm no camera wizard, so I don't know if I'm entirely wrong here, but I have noticed that autofocus simply does not function underwater. It just tries to focus on the nearest particle of seaweed that crosses the actual lens, and manual focus, for whatever reason, isn't much better. And last but not least are the problems of actually trying to use a camera underwater. The ocean, even in mild surf, will push you around a lot, and that doesn't translate to very smooth camera motion. And next is the light scattering. I even tried to tone this down by setting brightness and shadows and contrast, all the different values. It's very nice to look at right now for me, but I don't know how well this is going to translate to YouTube. It's a lot of different values that might cause the streaming quality to dip. And also, it isn't too much of a problem with this footage here, but I have noticed sometimes if something's particularly blurry or you have nothing specific stationary to look at, the footage can get nauseating and disorienting. So that's something I think you should be aware of as well. And honestly, there are other perks too. The beach is one of the places where many people often don't have their phones, especially in the water, and there are a lot of emergencies that might require 911 to be dialed in that specific environment, and I'm glad to know I have the phone on me. Overall, despite the difficulty, I think the footage that you can get underwater is quite awesome and quite rewarding to actually get. Anyway, I do hope you learned something, enjoyed, and as always, I wish you the best. Till next time.